I am so white that I know how to talk to someone that I don't necessarily agree with without shouting, yelling, threatening with violence, or insulting them. I am also so white that I have to ask this question to the ghetto community, even though I already know the answer. I'm just curious as if they do as well.
Hey, this message is to all the racist bigots out there who are claiming black fatigue. What's really going on is white fatigue, okay? We are sick and tired of listening to you tell stories about your Uncle Cletus McCracken. Okay, Stacy, we're sick and tired of you weaponizing your Bible, okay? Your family tree that's in the shape of a wreath, okay? Susan, we're really tired of hearing you spew gospel and Bible verses and all this other shit and turning around and delighting in the discomfort and misfortune of the people being harmed by this crime syndicate regime. Okay, we're sick and tired of you guys claiming to be patriots, but your brand of patriotism doesn't abide the Constitution.
Hey, so I gotta be honest about something. I saw a phrase the other day, white fatigue. Well, that's something that black people have been saying, like, we're just fatigued with white people, okay? But now white people and the algorithms have turned that around into they're tired of us. And I'm gonna say something that's probably not, as they used to say, politically correct, but I'm tired of white people. I just am. And so that we are very clear here, I don't mean individual white people. I mean the system of whiteness that we are going through, especially since Trump came on board.
No. I'm just going to respond without a comment here to post or a video because I don't really care what they have to say and I'm not going to give them air to breathe on my page. But I have white fatigue. Yeah, I said it. I have white fatigue. I am so fatigued of the history of fucking selfish, greedy white people. White fatigue is a thing, even coming from the white people. I am so fatigued by you fucks. White fatigue. Oh, it's a thing. It's a thing.
The concept of white fatigue has emerged as a significant phenomenon in discussions about racial justice, representing the weariness white people experience when learning about or discussing race and racism, despite understanding the moral imperative of anti-racist practices. This academic term, distinct from related concepts like white fragility or white guilt, deserves careful examination of both its validity and the varied responses it generates online. ## academic foundations and distinctions. Educational researchers have identified white fatigue as a distinct phenomenon that occurs at different stages of white racial identity development, separate from white resistance, white guilt, or white fragility. This framework suggests that fatigue represents a specific psychological state where individuals acknowledge racism's wrongness, but struggle to sustain engagement with its systemic complexities. The challenge lies in moving beyond individual level treat each other equally solutions to understanding institutional racism, which demands sustained intellectual and emotional labor. ## the controversy and criticisms. Online discussions reveal sharp divisions about white fatigue's legitimacy. Critics argue that the concept centers white discomfort in conversations that should prioritize racial justice. They point out that white people have the privilege of treating racism as a detached scholarly exercise, while BIPOC individuals live with its concrete realities daily. Recent social media controversies have highlighted how the term can be misappropriated, with some using it to justify disengagement from racial equity work entirely. The criticism extends beyond individual behavior to systemic concerns. When white fatigue drives retreat into individualism, the burden of justice work falls heavier on those who experience racism directly. This dynamic perpetuates existing power imbalances and potentially undermines collective progress toward racial equity. Hashtag contrasting perspectives. White fatigue versus racial battle fatigue. The discourse becomes more complex when contrasted with racial battle fatigue, a term describing the psychosocial stress responses from being a racially oppressed group member. This parallel highlights a fundamental asymmetry. While white individuals may tire of discussing racism, people of color experience ongoing psychological stress from living with its effects. This comparison underscores why some view white fatigue as a luxury rather than a legitimate concern. Hashtag moving forward. Constructive engagement. Despite the controversy, the concept offers potential value when approached constructively. Rather than justifying disengagement, acknowledging white fatigue could become a starting point for developing more sustainable approaches to anti-racist work. Educational approaches that help white people confront their fear of truly understanding racism may prove more effective than ignoring the psychological barriers to sustained engagement. The key lies in reframing white fatigue not as an endpoint or excuse, but as a challenge to overcome through community support, education, and commitment to growth. This requires moving beyond individual comfort zones while maintaining the stamina necessary for long-term systemic change. Ultimately, white fatigue represents a real psychological phenomenon that demands honest examination rather than dismissal or weaponization. The path forward requires acknowledging these challenges while refusing to let them derail the broader project of racial justice.
Let's talk about white people fatigue and why everybody's tired of white people. Even their own people are tired of white people. And you know how I know this? Because one black woman said, gingers are black people, and the whole ginger community has left the white people behind. I mean, every time you come on this app, it's a white woman complaining about her rights that she voted to be taken away. There's a white man complaining that he can't say the N-word. They're complaining about trans, men and women. They're complaining about schools, vaccines. But yet, their children are passing away from measles and typhoid and tuberculosis. They're always playing the victim of how black people or other minorities are taking their jobs when they ain't got no jobs in the first place, when they never went to school, they never got educated, but you're mad that someone more educated got a job. Let's not even talk about the school pew-pewings, the child SA, the domestic violence. They just ignore and play the victim in their own downfall. White people are contributing to their own harm and they're blaming black people when it's them. Listen, y'all, in my fake glasses, listen. White people fatigue is real. It is. And even white folk are tired of white people. We are all tired of white people. Every person of color and black person and indigenous is tired of white people. We've had white people fatigue, baby, since the 1400s.
I am so white that I know how to talk to someone that I don't necessarily agree with without shouting, yelling, threatening with violence, or insulting them. I am also so white that I have to ask this question to the ghetto community, even though I already know the answer. I'm just curious as if they do as well. Did you ever wonder why everywhere you seem to go, there are always problems? Seriously, do you ever wonder that? I mean, I know what you believe, that everywhere you go, somebody's fucking with you, or they're in your business, or somehow they're invading your personal space. I'm just curious, because I'm so white that I can hold myself accountable, but I'm just curious, have you ever thought just for a fucking second that the common denominator is you? It's not everywhere that has the problem. You're there. Everywhere you go, you are the fucking problem. But yet, it's my fault and everyone that looks like me. Right? Right? Just some food for fucking thought. All right, guys, I love every one of my white brothers and sisters out there. I wish you nothing but the best, except for you degenerate pieces of shit and you dope fiend motherfuckers. Get your fucking shit together. It's 2025. There's too much money to be made out here. What the fuck are you doing? All right, guys, I love you. Deuces.
Important facts, maybe a bit of humor. Today's exploration is interesting. It's quite unique, actually. You were given us some source material, these excerpts titled White Fatigue. But here's the really fascinating part. The entire content we received, the whole thing is just that phrase, white fatigue. That's it. Not, an article about it or even a paragraph, just the 2 words presented as the source.
Indeed. And that immediately makes you think, doesn't it? About the name itself. The fact that the only thing provided is the phrase, well, it changes how we have to approach this. Usually we'd be looking at arguments, evidence, stuff like that. But here, we're focused entirely on the term itself, presented so minimally.
Right, it's almost stark.
It is,
Yeah.
very stark. And powerful because of it, perhaps.
Okay, so let's unpack this for you. Our mission, really, is to explore what this phrase could mean, sticking strictly to what we have, which is just the phrase. We're not pulling in outside definitions or looking up its history. We're grappling with it just as it's presented here, alone, provocative. So as you hear white fatigue presented like this, just standing there, what immediately comes to your mind?
And that's the core, isn't it? The source material is the title, white fatigue.
Yeah, exactly. It gets really interesting right here because the source itself just being those 2 words, it sort of puts all of the focus on the power of naming something.
Mm-hmm. It suggests maybe that this term white fatigue has either reached a point where people just know what it means, some kind of shared understanding.
Or it's designed to make you think you should know. Or just to provoke a reaction.
Precisely. It makes you ask, well, what does it say about our conversations, our culture right now, that a phrase like this can just be put out there alone and sort of demand attention?
It asks those 2 words to do a lot of work, doesn't it?
A huge amount, yeah. When you just drop a term like white fatigue with 0 explanation, it immediately puts the burden on us, on you, the listener. You're suddenly the one who has to build the meaning around it. You're not just receiving information, you're actively constructing it.
So it's not just about the content of the source, which is minimal, but the form, the way it's presented.
Exactly. The lack of context is the message, in a way. It's like an invitation, maybe even a challenge, to engage with the term purely on its own.
So, okay, let's think about the words themselves. White fatigue. What weight do those 2 words carry together in that order?
Well, you've got the structure, right?
Yeah.
White modifying fatigue, an adjective describing a state. It points to a specific kind of fatigue.
But the source doesn't define it. It just presents it, like putting an object on a table and saying, look at this.
That's a great analogy. It's like a sculpture. You have to walk around it, look from different angles, try to figure out its significance based purely on its form and its name.
So we're interpreting the act of naming itself.
We absolutely are. And that act implies importance. It suggests this thing, this white fatigue, is considered real enough, significant enough to warrant a specific label.
And by not defining it, does that make it bigger somehow, more open?
It could, yeah. It doesn't limit the meaning to one author's definition. It sort of leaves the boundaries open for your own thinking, your own engagement with it.
Which could make it more impactful, maybe? Like a container that different people fill with slightly different meanings.
Potentially, that minimalism can amplify things. It relies entirely on the power of those 2 words.
This makes me wonder what kind of conditions, socially or culturally, might lead to a term like this appearing and being presented so starkly.
Well, you can think of other potent phrases that have emerged, right? Terms that seem to capture something complex happening in society. Things like culture wars or maybe cancel culture. Phrases that often gain traction, sometimes even before they have a really solid, agreed-upon definition.
Because they resonate with something people are feeling or observing.
Exactly. They tap into an undercurrent. So the very fact that white fatigue is presented like this suggests it's aiming to tap into something similar. Something perceived as significant in our collective awareness.
It points towards a phenomenon without actually describing it. It relies on you, the listener, to recognize it, or at least ponder it.
Right. But there's a flip side to that, isn't there?
Meaning?
Well, this openness, this lack of definition, it invites thought, sure, but it also risks ambiguity, misinterpretation even.
Without the author guiding the meaning, it could be pulled in different directions.
Potentially. Or maybe that ambiguity is part of the point. Maybe it's meant to spark discussion precisely because it's not clearly defined.
It's like a Rorschach test you said earlier, but with words.
Sort of, yeah. It prompts people to project their own understanding, their own experiences onto the phrase itself.
So really, the most significant piece of information we have from your source is the choice to present only the term.
That's the key takeaway, I think. It forces us to think about how meaning gets made, about the sheer power of labels, and how language can try to condense really complex ideas into just a couple of words.
And understanding that process.
Hey, this message is to all the racist bigots out there who are claiming black fatigue. What's really going on is white fatigue, okay? We are sick and tired of listening to you tell stories about your Uncle Cletus McCracken. Okay, Stacy, we're sick and tired of you weaponizing your Bible, okay? Your family tree that's in the shape of a wreath, okay? Susan, we're really tired of hearing you spew gospel and Bible verses and all this other shit and turning around and delighting in the discomfort and misfortune of the people being harmed by this crime syndicate regime. Okay, we're sick and tired of you guys claiming to be patriots, but your brand of patriotism doesn't abide the Constitution. You are the antithesis of patriotic. Okay? We're sick and tired of hearing about it, John. About your black fatigue. When really what's going on is that you need to go to therapy. And you need to unpack the patriarchal, authoritarian religion that you've been indoctrinated into. And also unpack your white supremacy culture and your racism. Okay? You're a bigot. And a misogynist. And we're fatigued from that. We are fatigued from hearing about the unhealed white people all over this country who aren't doing their work. And if you don't know what the work is, then you're not doing it. The work is your personal work. Your house is a fucking mess. Okay? And it needs to be exorcised like an exorcism. Because it's full of evil shit and hatred. And you're bringing down the vibe. We're fatigued from the likes of you, Stacy. That's the fatigue. Get to work. You got a lot of fucking work to do, okay? Have a great day.
People who talk about white fatigue or how tiring it is to be around the left or to be politically correct are telling on themselves. Because what they're saying is that they're upset that they can't let their guard down. And by guard, I mean they can't say the racist shit that they normally would say behind closed doors. And so they have to screen everything they say to make sure that it's not racist or bigoted, which is, I'm sure, exhausting. Unless you don't have to filter everything you say and screen everything you say, because you don't talk like that in the comfort of your own home. Also, you guys brought this on yourselves when you accepted the surveillance state and normalized recording and publicizing every aspect of your life. Because you thought it would only apply to other people, and now you're finding out that it sucks to be over-surveilled and monitored constantly, but you guys didn't think it would apply to you. Silver lining, I guess.
How a term like this can be put out there without context. That seems important for navigating, well, today's conversations.
Absolutely. It shows how quickly potent ideas, or at least potent labels, can take hold, sometimes before we've even collectively decided what they fully mean.
It really does flip our usual deep dive approach. Normally we'd have text, arguments, evidence.
Would it be analyzing the details?
Yeah. But here, the argument is the phrase. It's arguing for its own validity, its own existence as a concept, just by being there.
Which forces you back to the basics. Why these words? Why white? Why fatigue? What's implied by putting them together?
What kind of experience might it be describing? Or whose perspective is potentially reflecting?
And because there's no definition given, it invites everyone to consider it, but it also makes it very personal.
How do you, listening now, react to it? What do your own understandings of white and fatigue bring to your initial reading of the phrase?
The source, by being so brief, places a pretty significant intellectual task or maybe opportunity on you.
It's like being given just the title of a book and asked to discuss the entire plot and theme.
Exactly. Discuss white fatigue. And the prompt is just, white fatigue.
So we're not being told what it is. We're being asked to wrestle with what it could be.
Which encourages a much more active kind of thinking, doesn't it? You're not just absorbing, you're constructing potential meanings. You're engaging critically.
It provokes rather than just informs.
Right. It creates this space for you to think about the cultural backdrop, the social dynamics, the individual feelings that might lead someone to coin this term and present it so prominently.
What conditions make this phrase feel necessary or relevant to someone?
That's the question it implicitly asks, just by existing in this form.
So let's wrap this part up. What does this all mean for you? Our deep dive today, it was really focused, wasn't it? Singularly focused on just the phrase white fatigue from your source. We've kind of explored how the presentation, just the term, nothing else forces a unique kind of engagement.
Yeah, it pushes us to think about the power of naming, the meanings packed into just two words, and how you, the listener, are invited or maybe required to actively make sense of it.
This wasn't about digging into arguments or evidence in the usual way. It was about the act of the term itself existing as the entire statement.
It really shows how much can be communicated, or at least attempted, by saying very, very little, by letting the label do all the work.
So this leaves us and you with a pretty important question to think about.
Which is?
How does this term, white fatigue, presented all by itself as the core of the source material, how does it invite you to think about its meaning and its implications beyond just the literal words?
Yeah, what does that absence of explanation suggest? Does it imply the term is self-evident, or that it holds some kind of inherent power?
And how does that minimalist approach shape your own first reaction, your initial understanding, not just of the concept, but of this piece of information being presented to you?
It's a fascinating exercise, really, looking at how language works, how it shapes our thoughts.
Definitely a powerful reminder.
Yeah.
So thank you for joining us on this rather unusual deep dive.
We hope it gave you something to chew on.
We encourage you to keep thinking about white fatigue, about what its presentation tells us about language, naming, and the messages hidden even in silence, or at least in brevity.
Consider how that starkness influences interpretation.
We'll be back next time to unpack more of your sources. Thanks for listening.
Hey, so I got to be honest about something. I saw a phrase the other day, white fatigue. Well, that's something that black people have been saying, like, we're just fatigued with white people, okay? But now white people and the algorithms have turned that around into they're tired of us. And I'm going to say something that's probably not, as they used to say, politically correct, but I'm tired of white people. I just am. And so that we are very clear here, I don't mean individual white people. I mean the system of whiteness that we are going through, especially since Trump came on board. And I'm sick of the anti-blackness. And I have to ask people, black people, do we need to stop trying to please be a part of or suck up to white people? Black Lives Matter comes along, a great moment. Everybody in the country sort of got behind it, and that scared so many of these white supremacy type people that there's a huge backlash. No DEI, you're woke, and all this kind of crap. So basically, all these corporations were like, yeah, we have a commitment. And as soon as they got permission to, they dragged the rug out from under us. So, as Target has learned, black people have a lot of money. We have a lot of power that we're not using. And I gotta tell you something. Back in the day, through segregation, you had in a neighborhood the black doctor, the black nurse, the black teacher, the black plumber, the black numbers runner. You had everybody in the neighborhood, and you got to see different levels of black culture. Now, because of integration, all of the upwardly mobile good folk, I almost bought into it, upwardly mobile folks left the community because they wanted to see what the other side, the grass is always greener on the other side, etc., for many reasons. But then it left behind people who no longer had a role model to look for, except maybe a basketball player, a drug dealer, whatever. And I guess what I'm saying is, we have our own black colleges. We have our own black designers. We have our own black artists. We have all of that. But yet, we're still chasing the white dream. And I'm trying really hard to figure out what I'm trying to say, but at the end of the day, if we concentrated our wealth on us, so you go to where a lot of Chinese people are, it's called Chinatown, businesses, grocery stores, the whole bit. You go to where there's a lot of, let's say, Armenians, Little Armenia, grocery stores, banks, the whole bit. You do that with every community, and they have vibrant communities where they're self-contained. They're not trying to be white. They're being them. They're being their authentic selves, their authentic culture. They are just as American as anybody else, but they're not striving for the white dream. And it just seems to me that black people are striving for the white dream, or that's where we've been forced to think is the correct way of doing things. And I guess my question, and please answer in the comments, were we better off during, would we be better off with segregation? And I don't mean like, before we were forced, but because of that, because of integration, we lost us, I feel, in many ways. There's not the vibrant black community. Where are the black grocery stores? Where's the black grocery chains? You got Cardenas, you've got Supermercado, you've got all these places here that are Latino focused grocery stores. There's not one national black grocery chain. We need to, a lot of people have problems with Tyler Perry, but at least Tyler Perry is employing black actors. Ever notice how the hottest guy in a movie is never the black guy? Like now we're sort of seeing a change, with Michael B. Jordan, etc. But in general, black men are portrayed as not the hot guy, and oftentimes as the big queen. And I'm gay, so I can say this. Look at Food Network. All of the TV shows there are, you can have Italian cuisine, Asian cuisine, millions of hosts. There's occasionally one black soul food show. And even that, you can tell, just didn't get any attention. Whereas you have if it's a white person, then it's Southern cuisine. And it's all over the place. And you look at what's going on over there at the Home and Garden, HGTV. They have gotten rid of all the black shows and all the gay shows as well, but all the black shows. We have our own wealth. If all of these basketball players, etc., would put money together, start a network, stop trying to why do we need to be on Netflix? Why do we need to be on HGTV? Tyler Perry has built a studio that hasn't been seen since the golden age of Hollywood back in the 30s and 40s. Why don't we do more of that? And I'm rambling because honestly, and not all, and I used to always say this during Black Lives Matter, if you're not exhibiting the behavior, it's not about you. So I'm not saying all white people, but I gotta tell you, I'm tired of white people, the system. I have white fatigue. So would we be better off self-segregating ourselves like every other community does? Immigrants don't jump in, and they just don't. They go to their own, they keep with their own, they support their own. We're the only ones that seem to want to assimilate so badly. And honestly, it takes away from us. We are full Americans. That's why I hate the word African American, because we're not African American. We're Americans. We deserve to be Americans more than anybody else other than the natives, which is a whole other discussion. But I'm just tired of being othered by white people as if we're bad. You go to Chinatown, you go to Little Tokyo, you go to Little Italy. What's the black person's neighborhood called? You know what it's called, and it's negative. So, but the only reason it's negative is because we care. I don't know exactly what I'm saying, but would we be better off to just resegregate ourselves and not have to deal with the bullshit?
White fatigue, understanding the concept. White fatigue refers to the emotional exhaustion that some white individuals feel when confronted with ongoing discussions about racism, privilege, and systemic inequality. Unlike people of color, who face racism as a daily reality, white people may experience race-related conversations as an added burden. This sense of being tired often emerges when they are challenged to reflect on their own privilege, recognize the persistence of discrimination, or take responsibility for dismantling racist systems. For some, white fatigue manifests as defensiveness, statements like "I'm not racist, so why do I have to keep hearing about this?" Others may disengage completely, avoiding uncomfortable conversations or labeling them as divisive. While this reaction is human, it also reveals privilege, the ability to opt out of racial issues that others cannot escape. Scholars argue that white fatigue can slow progress in racial justice. When individuals withdraw due to discomfort, it leaves systemic problems unchallenged. The antidote is not avoidance but endurance, learning to sit with discomfort, listen actively, and see conversations about race as opportunities for growth. Ultimately, white fatigue is a reminder that equity work requires resilience, empathy, and the recognition that true change demands persistence, not retreat.
White people have co-opted the word black fatigue to mask racism and say racist and prejudiced tropes about us online. I figured I'd make a video to describe my white fatigue, my white malaise, my white exhaustion. FYP shows you what you're looking for. So if you're saying you're opening TikTok and all you're seeing is brawls and fights of black people, look within. Because why are you searching for us? Why are you monitoring us? You guys have the biggest monitoring spirits of life. If you're so tired of us, just leave us alone. I'm tired of white criminals. White people commit 70% of the crimes and arrests in this country. No such thing as black on black crime. You guys created that to continue to paint us as savages. Meanwhile, you guys are the ones committing all the crime. I'm tired of kids not being safe in school because people are being shot by white boys and girls in school. I'm tired of mass shootings in public places. I'm tired of bombers blowing up races, blowing up buildings. White people killing people. I'm tired of white serial killers. I'm tired of you guys praising white serial killers and then glorifying them by making movies and TV shows. White men committing crime and not going to jail. Stealing money from people's grandparents and stealing money from citizens and then you give them more and more. I'm tired of you guys causing the conditions for people not to be developed around the world or undeveloped and then label them as third world countries, second world countries, and then blame them for the reason that they're not developed, even though you're the reason they're not developed. I'm tired of being exposed to food that's been seasoned with air and imagination because these cows and chickens didn't have to die for no reason. I'm tired of Karens not minding their own business, and then when confronted about the business they didn't mind, then they have white tears, which then cause harm to white bodies, which then predicates police brutality, which you guys are the ones that perpetrate. I'm tired of the fact that your grandparents and your great-grandparents caused the conditions for black people to live in ghettos, black people not to own homes, black people not to have access to education, access to funds and programs, and then blame us for living in the ghetto, and then blame us for the violence that we are subject to, and then blame us for the conditions that we live in. Wow. Story after story of teachers having inappropriate relationships with their teenage students. Tired of the white hoods and KKK and the neo-Nazis, some which just got attacked in Ohio because they felt entitled to be openly racist. Really confused and tired about those rock concerts where you guys go ahead and beat each other up, but we're savages. Very savage, uncouth ghetto behavior. Beating each other up for fun at concerts? Tired of the opioid crisis. I'm tired of white middle-class men who are criminals who all they care about is the bottom line, and they willingly put drugs into the system which kill kids.
So lately there's like all this talk about black fatigue, and I watch it and it is exhausting to watch, but nobody wants to talk about, is there a thing called white fatigue? Because there is. I'm in customer service. I'm a server working in the restaurant field my whole life. So, and white people are just as obnoxious and irritating, and they throw tantrums like legit fits, and like yesterday I had an incident with a lady and she had to be in her late 30s early 40s and threw a straight tantrum. I know her son and her husband had to been uncomfortable because I was uncomfortable for them, and I was embarrassed for them because I was embarrassed for her over a tater tot, like the way she acted. And I'm just sitting there like, but it's so common in the restaurant world. Yeah, everybody has good and bad in every race, but white people are just as fucking ignorant, are just as fucking, they throw legit tantrums. She was huffing and puffing, like, and her husband's like, just eat the tater tots, like the way she acted. And I'm not going to go into it. I just want to say white people are just as exhausting and they're just as embarrassing. And for the most part, a lot of them are trailer trash, dirty, just unfit, they don't take care of themselves. They don't look like they give a fuck about how they look. They don't care about how they act. They just are shameful all the way around. Because, you know, I don't ever try to judge people on your finances or what kind of car you drive or where you live. But no matter what, how you present, you could be poor and still be clean. Cleanliness is just a matter of just be clean. I don't care if you live in the projects, if you live in a trailer, if you live in a tent, you could still take time to take pride in how you look and present yourself. And it's always some trashy trailer park, backwoods, hillbilly white person that comes in restaurants and act like they are superior to everybody, that throws tantrums, that act like the world revolves around them. And I just sit back like thinking to myself, like, bitch, you got a lot of nerve. But it's exhausting for us too, especially in the waitress world, server world, restaurant world, customer service world, what we deal with from all people. But it's so exhausting because as a white woman to see it's always some nasty trailer trash bitch. And I'm always like, bitch, you got a lot of motherfucking nerve to act the way you're acting. And I guarantee you ain't probably took a bath in a couple days. So it's just kind of like, make it make sense. Maybe I'm missing something. Maybe it ain't adding up to me, but something just don't add up. I feel like if you don't wash your ass and you don't take care of yourself and you don't present yourself at least semi-decent in public, then why the fuck is you complaining about anything, bitch? You need to be complaining about yourself. Again, I could be wrong, but make it make sense. If somebody can explain that to me, how are you missing all your teeth and you got on dirty clothes and you ain't combed your hair, but you complaining?
I don't think some white people see our hair as like hair. Yesterday I'm on a train with my family and my little boy has an afro right now because I took out his braids. White lady sitting next to me starts to engage in conversation about my son's hair. And the first question she asked me is, do you shampoo his hair? I said, well, you know, shampoo is to clean the scalp. I mean, you're supposed to shampoo your children's hair, so yeah. She's like, oh, I couldn't imagine. I'm like, okay. Then she continues by asking me, I know you don't use conditioner. I'm like, well, conditioner helps me detangle his hair, so yeah, I do. She's like, oh, it's so cute. I say thank you. And you know, when you're having a conversation with somebody and they're making it so awkward that like you don't even know how to respond, then no BS, this lady goes, I bet you wish you could put weave in his hair too, huh? Like the fuck? And then the awkward laugh after she said that, like, bitch, you knew you was making a joke. But I just thought that was strange that she's asking me if I shampoo my son's hair. What do they think we clean our hair with?